A man asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied by telling this story. A man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho through a road that stretched through lonely hills and rocky cliffs. The journey was long, and the narrow path wound its way through the rugged countryside beneath the hot desert sun. As the traveler continued along the road, everything seemed peaceful and quiet around him. But hidden among the rocks, a group of robbers waited for an unsuspecting traveler to pass by. Without warning, the robbers rushed from their hiding places and surrounded the startled man. The traveler tried to defend himself, but the robbers quickly overpowered him and attacked. They stole everything he had and left him badly wounded beside the road before disappearing into the hills. Bruised, bleeding, and exhausted, the traveler lay helpless on the dusty ground beneath the blazing sun. Alone beside the road, the wounded traveler grew weaker with each passing hour, hoping someone would stop and help him. The wounded man lay motionless on the road. The hot sun beat down as he waited for help to come. Minutes stretched into an hour. The traveler could do little more than watch the empty road ahead. No one had stopped to help him. As the day wore on, he began to lose hope. Perhaps no one would come at all. At last, someone appeared in the distance. A priest was traveling down the same road. The wounded traveler lifted his head as the priest approached. After so many lonely hours, he finally felt a spark of hope. When the priest saw the injured man lying there, he slowed and leaned down to observe the traveler. For a moment, it seemed he might help, but the priest chose not to stop. Instead, he continued down the road and left the wounded man behind. The traveler watched as the priest disappeared from sight. His hope quickly faded once again. Not long afterward, a Levite came walking down the road and noticed the wounded traveler. He paused long enough to see the man's condition. Yet he too chose to walk away. But the Levite chose to continue on his way. Soon, his footsteps faded into the distance. The wounded traveler was alone again. Dust swirled across the road as silence settled around him. Hours passed beneath the blazing sun. The rocky road seemed endless, and help was nowhere to be found. The shadows grew longer across the canyon walls. Night was approaching, and fear began to creep into his heart. Just as the wounded traveler was losing hope, a Samaritan appeared on the road. The sound of approaching footsteps broke the silence of the canyon. Instead of walking away, the Samaritan stayed and examined the wounds. Carefully, he cleaned the wounds and began treating them. He worked patiently, making sure the traveler was safe. The Samaritan stayed beside him as darkness approached. He refused to leave the traveler alone. With steady hands, the Samaritan wrapped clean cloth around the wounded man's injuries. Soon the bandages were securely in place. When the wounds were bandaged, the Samaritan prepared his donkey for the journey ahead. The Samaritan led his donkey to the wounded man. Though the journey would be slow, he was determined not to leave the traveler behind. The Samaritan gently helped the traveler climb onto its back. At last, the wounded man could rest as they began the journey toward help. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, they finally neared a small inn. A safe place to recover was just ahead. The Samaritan carefully helped the traveler onto a bed inside the inn. For the first time since the attack, he could finally rest. Through the night, the Samaritan stayed nearby, watching over him. He wanted to make sure the traveler was safe and cared for. When morning came, the traveler looked much stronger than before. The kindness he had received was helping him heal. The Samaritan walked to the innkeeper and explained everything that had happened. Placing silver coins into the innkeeper's hand, the Samaritan paid for the traveler's stay. He asked the innkeeper to keep caring for the injured man. He expected nothing in return. "Take care of him," he said. "When I return, I will pay for any extra cost." The traveler watched quietly as the Samaritan prepared to leave. He would never forget the stranger who had shown him such mercy. With a final smile, the Samaritan rode away down the road. His kindness had changed someone's life forever. Then Jesus asked, "Which of these was a neighbor to the wounded man?" The answer was clear: the one who showed mercy. Jesus then commanded, "Go and show the same mercy to others."